Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, so when you kind of first decided to go solo, was there any kind of inspiration, sort of any other kind of artists that had gone solo from being in a band or anything like that?
Right. I think that there definitely was. I paid very close attention to this period that Iggy Pop and Bowie had in Berlin, and I focused heavily on that, and I drew from a lot of other bands and mixed that in with it, like Supergrass, and there was like My Bloody Valentine and some shoegaze elements mixed in with pop, but I really did pay attention to Bowie and Iggy. And when I saw your first solo record and I saw your very first video, I remember getting a very Gary Newman vibe in like a really cool way.
Okay, yeah.
I thought it was like such a really interesting and awesome jump from the music you'd made before. So yeah, what was it for you?
Yeah, I mean that was kind of weird. I guess it's sort of you everything gets so ingrained when you're in a band, especially for like 20 years. So definitely making that leap, and I guess it's like making the leap but doing it in a kind of interesting way, but still very natural. It's still got to be very kind of natural to how I kind of deliver things.
Right.
But rather than sort of any other sort of any sort of solo artists that came out of bands, I guess it was more, I always liked Beck, and how he kind of approached stuff and approached the kind of the recording, and the different albums that he's had. And they're very kind of diverse. I kind of like that he seems to sort of just sit down, get a vibe for a record and kind of knock it out. And then the next one could be something, whatever, like Mutations to Midnight Vultures. And they're really weird, different records and
really
stuff.
Different,
I thought that was kind of really interesting and really exciting, just to kind of make that jump, to something different.
There's something you said too that I just thought of where, you're coming from a band for a lot of years and you're comfortable doing a certain thing or you're known for a certain thing.
Yeah.
So how much of that do you put into what you're doing? I struggled a lot in the studio with the fact that my voice was used to sounding a certain way, and tracked a certain way, and stacked a certain way, and I had to kind of fight against that constantly and always be mindful of it. So was that something that was happening? Yeah,
definitely. I think there was definitely there's a few moves that I made were kind of consciously moving away from what I'd done before. I mean, I guess the first sort of main thing I noticed was not having a drummer in the band.
Okay.
And not only not having a drummer, but Danny Goffey, who I still think is one of the greatest drummers around, and that his kind of feel and stuff. And I knew that wasn't going to be in there.
Right.
So it's kind of how do I sort of approach this in a different way? And I guess I started looking at programmed drums for a little while, in terms of not programmed kind of real drum sounds, which are horrible, but just electronic beats, and stuff, which was kind of something we played with in Supergrass every now and again, but having a drummer like Danny as well, it's kind of not very much need to kind of have electronic drums on records.
Right.
That was the first thing that I noticed was kind of quite cool to cool to play with. And then but then I'm more on this record, my second record. I guess I've kind of gone back to sort of enjoying a kind of great sounding live kit, I've kind of learned how to play drums a bit better. So
oh, really?
I kind of get down
I didn't know
there
you played drums.
Yeah, no, it's quite cool. It's fun. I just kind of bash around on the drums and get ideas together. But yeah.
Oh, cool.
It's been good.
Yeah, I started as a drummer, but I was horrible at it. So. I played snare in marching band.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
You get good control with that.
So I can play percussion.
You can do paradiddles.
Yes, I can do paradiddles. I could play School's Out by Alice Cooper, which is the song. It's ingrained in my head. So I still play percussion because of that, but I did try to get a kit. It was a Black Pearl drum kit, and I couldn't work the foot with the hands. It was too hard.
Yeah, I do get frustrated. Yeah. It's kind of like fine tuning. So band politics, you're kind of happy to be rid of all that shit.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing.
Or was it all right?
It was all right. It was the kind of thing where I think, and maybe you could relate to this. I'm not sure about what your kind of trip was or your rise, but the relationships between the people, it didn't feel like it was so much strained as just the situation we were in. And it felt like we'd been run through such a pressure cooker from the minute we got in a van to the end that felt really good to be free from. Because My Chemical Romance stood for a specific thing, and it meant a specific thing to a lot of people. And then after a while, you kind of change and grow as people, and you're just different, you know. So it's good to be free from that. You know, yeah. Like,
I mean, kind of creatively as well.
Yeah.
Was there any kind of loggerheads, or just kind of like clashes of, like, you know, ideas?
Well, creatively, I feel like everybody grew so much and changed and did go off in different directions. You know, that I knew that I felt that by the time I had started to write some new songs, I didn't think of a way that I could almost get the band to play them without kind of breaking it and really upsetting everybody. Like, you know, just making a fuzz rock record like I wanted to, that was very basic in certain ways. It wasn't what My Chemical Romance did, you know, and I'm happy with what My Chemical Romance did. But, you know, it was always going to be a certain thing, always going to sound a certain way. So creatively, it was a lot. You know, there was a lot of relief in being able to just do it myself. So yeah, I don't know how that was for you, and relationship-wise, and politics, and.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess it's that sort of. You know, we were really close friends. Like, you know, so me and Danny as well, from when we were 12 years old. You know, so we kind of grew up together, very, very close. And you know, I think it worked kind of pretty much all the way to the end. I think it was, I mean, the last record we were working on was the sort of turning point when there was definitely a clash of sort of, you know, which direction we should go in. And I think we weren't in agreement. We'd done some early sessions, and then we were taking the music home to listen to, and I suddenly found that I didn't want to play it to anyone. It kept on bugging me why I didn't want to play it to friends, and I kind of realised that I wasn't happy with it. You know, I didn't want anyone to hear it yet, because it wasn't. I don't know. You know, there's such strong personalities as well. I kind of didn't want to stamp anything over that.
That
you know,
was
I didn't want to,
the
like,
same exact thing that I felt.
Yeah.
What you just and actually the whole thing you just explained, with the exception of us being friends when we were 12, and instead being friends when we were some of us at about 17, 18, and then early 20s for some of us. We were such good friends all the way through.
Yeah.
And it felt like the strain happened at the end, just like you were explaining, you know.
Yeah.
And that was the thing for me. I didn't want to ask anybody to not be themselves.
Yeah.
You know, I loved what everyone in the band did. And
exactly.
And I didn't want to, you know, and it sounds like we had such a similar experience. And again, it wasn't a big bust up at the end. It was like, you know, this isn't working. And I found myself in the same situation as you exactly, where we were making stuff and I wouldn't want to play it for people. It was the same exact
Weird,
thing.
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and it was all very dark.
It's kind of quite a sort of, it's quite a sort of desolate feeling in a weird way. Because you sort of, through your whole life, that's what it's about for me. You know, when you do demos, when you kind of go for a session, you know, I always bring stuff back and play it in the car and grab people and go, hey, look, get in my car and listen to this. You know,
right.
With that kind of excitement. And I wasn't getting that. And I thought, fuck, you know, what's going wrong? What's happening?
Right.
This can't be the end of music. Is this the end of music?
yeah.
It was just sort of really odd. But then that was it.
Right.
Off we go.